brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. Suds. It's time for more Suds.
Hey there. Turn up that volume. It is time for another Suds segment where good beer meets really bad radio. I am one of your hosts for today, good old gal Julianna. And with me today is good old boy Dave.
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Okay, dude. Hi.
The dude.
Do you have a job, Mr. Lebowski?
Not Mr. Lebowski.
Call me the dude.
Yeah. Also joining us today is good old boy Caperton.
Hi. I'm into brevity, so I'm just saying hi.
Cool.
Hi.
Also joining us is good old boy Reverend Mark.
Hi, I'm into brevity.
And also joining us is good old boy Tim.
I'm into longevity. We'll go Tim. At some point. See what you did there. You've been waiting on that one. What you did there.
Yeah, waiting with bated breath. Well, today's episode is really special and near and dear to all of our hearts. It is a brewery takeover, which that part is normal and we do that a lot. But the brewery of choice today is Scratch Brewing Company, which is a farmhouse brewery located 5 miles from the Shawnee National Forest in Ava, Illinois. Named one of the top 4 breweries for foraged beer by Outside Magazine and one of the most beautiful places to drink beer in the world by All About Beer Magazine, Scratch Brewing Company focuses on farmhouse beers and other styles brewed with homegrown and locally farmed and foraged ingredients.
It's made with bits of real panther, so you know it's good.
Because you know it's hard to get that panther.
Certain parts are harder than others.
It's true. So,
not the fake panther.
No. Oh,
you can
that's
taste that fake panther taste.
Oh, it's just processed.
That's just rubbery. Yeah, that's gross.
Not fooling anyone.
Yeah. The brewery has an ever-rotating selection of styles enhanced by the innovative addition of local ingredients, such as nettle, elderberry, ginger, dandelion, maple sap, hickory, lavender, juniper, chanterelle mushrooms, and of course, my favorite mushroom now, the hen of the woods.
There you go. And a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah.
I'm sure the partridges come out for Christmas, right? Christmas. Yeah. So Marika Josephson and Aaron Clyden are Scratch's owners and brewmasters, creating beer with a diverse array, and I cannot stress the word diverse enough, array of farmed and foraged ingredients that showcase the terroir of southern Illinois.
Well said.
Thank you. I do well at this sometimes. Chris Pierman and Adrian Kuntz, founders of River to River Farms in Ozark, Illinois, are the brewery's full-time farmers who tend to the hop production, the extensive garden, and some of the inventions in their kitchen. The two bring to life different plants that are showcased in beers and on their menu, offering invaluable assistance in creating place-based beer and food located in the woods outside. Anyways, that's just completely extraordinary and cool, and I can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we have several interesting beers from Scratch today. Scratching on the record.
Wiki.
Oh, wow. And a few of us have even been there once, twice, 20. Want to build a colony there?
Yeah, it's kind of painful drinking all these Scratch beers and not eating their pizza with it. delicious pizza.
Yeah.
The Caperton wing is under construction now.
I believe it is.
So I'm trying to get them to install a campground, actually.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
that would be absolutely awesome. So we're going to get into that in just a minute, but now we're going to have a brief word from our sponsor.
Are you lonely? Have you tried meeting people who interest you, but you just can't find them? Have all the dating apps let you down? Maybe you need Imaginary Friend. It's the new social app that lets you avoid real relationships. No chance of being disappointed because it's all in your head. That's Imaginary Friend. Download it today.
So I guess we're going to get to talking about today's lineup. Good old boy Caperton, do you mind doing the honors?
Absolutely. So the Scratch Brewing beers we have for today's show are as follows. Keep up. There are several. Spring Tonic, Mum, the Basil IPA, Single Tree Hickory. I think we have Hickory Single Tree. It's one or the other.
It's Single Tree Hickory.
I think it's Single Tree Hickory.
Thanks for calling me out, though.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Sorry. I'm going with what I got. Barrel-aged Hickory Stout, Hen of the Woods Wee Heavy, the Barrel-aged Black Cherry Sour, and the Chanterelle Biere de Garde.
Wow.
Oui. I'm drooling. Thank you. So,
That's a mouthful.
good old boy Reverend Mark, since you haven't done this in a while, could you please do
I like
the
how she's using your full title.
Full name.
But
Good old boy Reverend.
but I have done this more than a few times.
I know, but it's been a bit.
Yeah.
So, would you please
And I've had
indulge us?
a bit of a hiatus.
In
Yes.
your best good old boy Mike voice.
Oh boy, Mike. Here he comes. All right. So, our Suds ratings are as follows. Number 1, that really sucks. Give me anything but a bud. Number 2, was that a belch? Number 3, what a relief. Number 4, a body should really not make that sound. And number 5, listen to that hang time. Give me another.
You are so eloquent
Professional.
and so unlike how Mike would do it. Let's be real.
That was your worst good old boy Mike voice.
Terrible
It was
Mike
awesome.
Exactly.
I think for this show, though, number 1 should be your father smells of elderberries.
Nice.
Yeah, and unfortunately, none of us will have to use that rating today, I don't think.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We're very lucky in not having to deal with
I
that.
do think of that scene every time I hear the word elderberries.
Yeah.
It is hard
Monty Python.
not to.
Oh, God, love the pythons. Okay, enough about that. Let's get to the beer. Good old boy Caperton. Let's start off with you.
Oh, we're there.
We are there.
We've arrived.
We have
All right.
arrived.
Okay.
And ready for your first in your top 3.
Astound us.
Thank you. So, really tough to choose just 3 beers from this lineup.
No
I
doubt.
mean, there were a lot of beers here.
Now you know how I feel.
Yeah, and it was tough, but I persevered.
You
And
soldiered on.
So we're gonna go. I'm gonna say my top choice of the lineup would be the Single Tree Hickory, and I gave that a rating of 5.
Boom. Right off the bat.
That was probably I think that was the first beer. It was at Shelton Brothers. That was my first exposure to Scratch last year. And good old boy Sean had been telling us for quite some time that we all needed to get up there. And he was right. But the Single Tree Hickory still and I was really delighted to give it a second round here. But it's the first thing that sort of jumps out at you is that woody tannic sort of quality that the wood brings. And I think they used the nut, the leaves, the husk, and bark.
Yeah, like every part of the tree.
Right.
Branches.
Yeah. And I mean, it's
holes.
just such a unique flavor that it just jumps right out at you. It's got a nice tart sourness to it. Definitely from their house, sour, bugs. And maybe just a little hint of smoke, I felt like there. I mean, just a super complex beer and just outstanding. And so that was my top choice. Number 2, moving right along, would be the barrel-aged black cherry, which didn't have any cherries, but it did have cherry bark and I think the tartness of that beer, I mean, it was just beautifully balanced between the wood and the sourness. Again, it had that tannic woody quality, from, I guess, but not so much the barrel, right? But more of the tree.
Probably, from the bark and
yeah. I was wondering the same thing.
But it did have a little bit of a Venus quality. I mean, from the barrels, I guess the wine barrels that they aged it in.
Yeah.
But a nice creamy tart sourness, and I gave that a 5 as well.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yep.
Handing them out left and right.
And really quickly at the end of, if I had to pick a third, I would go with the Chanterelle Biere de Garde. And it was really surprisingly how well the mushroom, which did stand out, lent itself to that style. There was a little bit of honey malt or something going on there that really played well with that Chanterelle. And a nice earthy quality that sort of came through in the finish, nice and dry. And I gave it a 4.
We'll be right back after this brief interlude.
Rolling clouds and crashing surf, iridescent dunes reflecting by the light of a rising, glowing moon. Seashore mesmerizing, night breeze hypnotizing. We've come across these back roads none too soon. Look to the left, to the right. Keep your eyes on the road, my darling. Wondering if we're only passing through. Open roads and open windows. My hand is yours forever, sweet love.
Welcome back, everyone. We are doing a brewery takeover from Scratch Brewing Company.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
What the what?
I thought he was having a seizure for a minute. It's like, what button do I hit for that?
I'm like, sound effect, dude.
911.
Like, what the heck?
Skiggity giggity.
Yeah, okay. So for those of you that are keeping record, the Hickory Single Tree Ale is a 5%. And like good old boy Caperton said, it is brewed with all parts of the tree to include the leaves, the branches, the nuts, the hulls, and the bark.
Could you taste the nuts?
Oh, my.
Yes.
Could smell them.
Them nuts.
Sweaty.
I'm sure. And it's very tart with a smoky incense-like aroma, which, that's there. And then a slight hint of marshmallows. I'm not quite sure about the marshmallow part, but, well, that's what they said anyways. The other two, the Chanterelle Biere de Garde is 6.35%. I really like that efficiency there.
Dude, specificity.
Which is a French-style farmhouse beer, which we all know and love, our Biere de Garde, with 50 pounds of foraged Chanterelle mushrooms. Yeah, that's got a light, buttery funkiness and an apricot finish. I guess we'll discuss that in a second. And then the barrel-aged black cherry sour is 5.7%. And, of course, it's brewed with the wild cherry bark and no hops. Anyways, moving on.
Thank you, good old girl, Julie. For
Hey,
keeping me on the
keeping you honest, boss.
There.
Keeping you honest.
Thank you.
So next up, good old boy Reverend Mark. Let's talk about your top.
Reverend Mark. Okay.
Let's talk about your top picks.
All right. Well, I am aligned here in a couple of places with Caperton so far. My top pick is the Chanterelle Biere de Garde. First, on a very superficial level, but important nonetheless, it was the most optically appealing to me.
Yeah.
And these days, I'm trying to keep my vision straight and clear. So,
What's the point, right? Unless there's something to look at.
Small sips, buddy. Small sips.
And it was this clear amber, and just in right in the middle of the spectrum of what you're looking for in terms of a Biere de Garde that is, been hidden away. It's a hidden beer, and hopefully, as you hide them longer and longer, they clear out. I got a little bit of kind of a light Heath bar, but not overly sweet, but just this real kind of rich toffee type suggestion right at the first.
Yeah.
And then it seemed to merge with kind of like a white raisin sweetness. But again, it wasn't a sweet beer.
Right. It finished really dry.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And that is really what demarks for me, a true Biere de Garde is that it really hits you sweet and then it finishes sour.
Sure.
I'm curious though, the description of this particular beer from Scratch is that it's buttery. And of course, as a beer judge, you'd say, diacetyl. And so, but it's not diacetyl. So I'm trying to figure out where they get the butter. I don't quite, except that I did say Heath bar, so maybe something in that.
It is buttery though.
Yeah,
I think I
but not
smell
in a diacetyl sense.
I agree.
It's
No.
like-
Butter.
No, in a true buttery
Can't
sense.
believe it's not butter.
Can't believe it. Yeah, there you go. There.
Okay.
But I didn't. I got just a little bit of the mushroom. And, some people might really ding it on that, but I
would
think
not.
actually that's what makes it even better is that it's sort of on the edge.
It's not too shroomy.
Right.
not at
Yeah.
all.
If I want that, I just get a can of, cream of mushroom soup. So,
There you go.
so that one for me is a 5. Absolutely a 5.
Nice. What you got next?
Okay, the next one is the Hen of the Woods Wee Wee Heavy. I mean, the Wee Heavy.
Wee.
Terroir, Biere de Garde,
It was a beautiful ruby color, kind of like the cranberry juice they served me just recently on Southwest Airlines.
Along with a small plastic bottle.
But seriously, folks, it was certainly made it look like it. Yeah, this is a Scottish type ale. I think it had the most woodsy impact on my palate. Like right at the first sip, it was just kind of this, unadulterated, just a kind of a woodsy. They use the word terroir. And at first I thought you said terrier. I thought that's not so good, but terroir.
Tasty small dog.
And for me at least, I found like there was a sense of like dry bark that was being rehydrated on your palate. And that not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. So,
It's like when you're sucking on tree bark and you really like it.
like not after you get 10 minutes in, the
Yeah,
flavor is
you're like,
dulled
oh,
a little,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
still there in the back of your mouth. Bark.
but all things said and done, I would give Hen of the Woods Wee Heavy a 4. And then my third and last, and all of these beers really rated pretty well, but this is my third, would be the Hickory Single Tree Ale. It was a very mild sour that I really kind of like, at least this time of the day. It kind of, though, had sort of a resin-like sting, just a little bit in the back of the throat, not severe. I don't get the marshmallow, okay? So I'm still looking for the marshmallow there, all right? Maybe a little bit of a burnt taste in there, but not really. For me, at least, I said that this one would be a less is more type beer, meaning that I would really enjoy this like a 5 or 6 ounce pour, kind of as an aperitif. But I liked it a lot.
Gotcha.
Yeah, great flavor.
Yeah. And what'd you rate this?
I rate that a 4.
Cool. Moving on. Good old boy Tim.
Well, I'll pick up where good old boy Reverend Mark left off in the single tree hickory or hickory single tree, depending. And in the nose, I get kind of like an acetic quality, and I get a little in the flavor too, and I really don't always enjoy that in sour beer, but it's just enough that it's not overpowering, and it's pretty tasty. And yeah, the incense aroma that they talk about couldn't be more spot on. It is kind of like drinking incense, which I've never done, didn't think possible, but
Pretty good.
Yes.
in the best way imaginable.
But if you could, it would be a lot like this.
If you could, and it was enjoyable,
Yes. And you got a buzz.
Yeah.
and preferably not on fire.
Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's just like a lot of scratch beers. They're really just hard to describe because sometimes they sound like they don't work if you just use like 6 parts of the hickory tree and you'll be fine. So it's crazy, but it tastes like drinking a tree again in like the best way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully this tree one day finds a match and is not single anymore. But we'll see.
Hopeless romance.
That's me. So the hickory single tree, I gave it a rating of 4. And so the second beer in my top 5 would be the barrel aged black cherry, another tree beer, which we've had a couple from them, and it's just like Caperton, I think, was talking about. You get this wood taste, and at first I think it's kind of from the tree more than the barrel, but it's also kind of hard to tell. And just has this nice woody nose. It has a cherry flavor without having cherries in it, but also the name black cherry kind of puts that idea in your head. So who knows about that?
Maybe the sourness as well.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
I do
kind
like
of drives that home.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
So.
plus, like when you're smoking something with cherry wood, you do get some of that.
Yeah.
There is some of the
Yeah.
fruit flavor in the wood.
Sure.
So I'm sure you're
Yeah.
getting something. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Something like that. And, 5.7%. I think it's great. It's not boozy or anything, but I also feel like this beer would age really well, like just letting the flavors chill out. But that's not to say it's not balanced already. And so for all those reasons, I gave it a 4.
It's nice. A lot of 5s and 4s today so far.
Not bad. Keep it up, Scratch. And so the last beer that I wanted to talk about, which no one has yet, is their Spring Tonic, which is 4.5% beer. And so this was brewed with a bunch of stuff they just took out of the garden. Dandelion, carrot tops, clover, and ginger.
Sounds like someone wants to get funky.
Yeah, it is quite funky. So they describe it as having a lemonade-like tartness and a light ginger finish, and those are probably the 2 biggest things I took away from the beer. Couldn't have said it better, so I really won't. I mean, it's just acidic. It is very ginger-forward. The reason I like this beer so much, it's like the full picture for me. It's called Spring Tonic, and so it just already evokes images of springtime and blooming and wonderful weather and being outside.
Yeah.
And then this beer does nothing but tell you to go outside and enjoy
it's
it.
very bright.
Yeah.
It's
So bright, lemony, just delicious, refreshing. I don't know. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I freaking
It
love
makes you feel alive drinking it,
does. It does.
Like springtime. Yeah.
I actually thought, and I don't mean this in a bad way either, to emulsify it with a little olive oil and use it for a salad dressing.
Yeah. I mean,
seriously, it would
Sure.
a little bit of Parmesan.
That's funny. I thought of actually filling one of those camelbacks with it and going on a hike with it.
I was wondering if they made magnums of it. Yeah.
You could put it in one of those little things on a St. Bernard, like when they go and rescue hikers in the mountains.
But it's
replenish
hopless,
you.
so
Yeah.
not really a beer, right?
Right.
Gruit.
Yeah.
And some of these, anyway.
They
Yeah.
go heavy. They go
Stepping
heavy
on Tim.
gruit. you know, at Scratch.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Absolutely. That's what we were talking before about. I just like that, you know, kind of, I don't know if it's deconstruct or don't even listen to the labels of things. And like, you know, I don't know why everyone has to put hops in every beer. I like hoppy beers, but at the same time, you know, it's a very rigid guideline in there.
The back of your mind, Reinheitsgebot.
always the Germans.
You know,
show us the papers.
It's a big world, and there's lots of great flavors out there other than hop.
There are more than 4 ingredients in this beer.
It's fine hoot. So, what did you rate your
Spring Tonic?
Tonic?
I'm giving this love a 5. It makes me happy, and isn't that why you drink beer?
Yep.
So
pretty much.
What else
Pretty
can I
much.
ask?
Makes me feel good too if I drink enough. It makes me happy and makes me feel good.
Pushes down the sadness. Yes.
It's one and the same, right?
Give it enough time, it makes me a little sleepy.
Even better.
Yeah. Exactly.
Happy, sleepy.
So one thing I have to say about these beers is that there isn't any one that tastes like the other. You know, they're all
great point.
They're all extraordinary on their own and so diverse. So
the common thread is they're amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And also the common thread is that there's such ingenuity with these. You know, because there's a lot of ingredients that I would not have thought was possible in making a beer, and they're doing it, and they're doing it so stunningly well. So for anyone out there listening that wants to really know what to think outside the box in terms of brewing is, this brewery is certainly doing that.
Tell you what, when civilization finally does break down, Scratch Brewing is the kind of place you want to be.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Because
they're off the grid already.
They're off the grid, and they don't rely on.
I mean, the place literally looks like it grew out of the ground. You know?
It's
sort of.
That's kind of what makes rating the beers difficult as well, because you don't know what to expect. You almost don't have expectations.
Sure.
And what are you comparing it to? Eating herbs?
Sure.
Cooking with herbs de Provence? I don't know.
Right.
And I think Scratch does just, you know, it's in continuity with the Belgian tradition of the farmhouse ale. I mean, so, you know, I mean, when we talk about Reinheitsgebot, that has its place in history, obviously. It was the first Western sort of consumer protection law, you know, so it served a really solid purpose. But this is really connecting with, you know, the way Belgian beers were brewed until hops really became part, you know, of their reservoir of ingredients. So, you know, so I don't think this is a new invention. It's just it's reestablishing the farmhouse.
No. Yeah, and the saison nature of brewing with what you have.
Yes,
what you grow, what's in the field. What's ready.
This is truly what all of our ancestors were doing way before it was cool to be doing this sort of thing. So
right before they were thrown in jail. So.
Yeah,
hipsters before hipsters existed.
Yes. You know. Could be worse. So that brings me to my first beer. Now, granted, I have only been to Scratch once in my life, but I will remedy that soon, believe me.
At a girl.
It was, I mean, it was such an incredible experience because it is like no other place. First of all, to get there is like no other drive to any other brewery that I've been to. I mean, you're really going deep into the woods, so to speak, to find this place on a road that may or may not have really existed. You know what I mean?
40 or 45 minutes from the interstate.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. So certainly this is a little different than, you know, your average brewery. But then I found this beer. And this was the first one. And I was with, the first one of that flight.
Yeah. This was the first love. Yeah. Go ahead and say it. You know,
no. Bob is still my first love. Let's be real.
That was a burn. You know what? I'm gonna give you one of those.
That was a good burn.
No, Mr. Sylvester will always be near and dear to my heart. But this Hen of the Woods completely blindsided me.
Yeah.
It really did. First of all, when I heard about this mushroom and how it kind of tastes like a chicken, I was thinking, okay, there's just something really bizarre.
Yeah, what the heck?
And then I took a whiff. Well, first of all, the color really blew me away because it was not what I expected. But yes, it's very wee heavy in color.
Yeah.
And then I took a sniff, and it just transported me to like another country. I mean, really, I know this sounds cheesy, but you know, they've always said there's going to be that one beer that's really going to kind of like blow your conception of what beer is. And this has done this for me.
Just the smell made you smile, didn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Caperton was with me, and so was good old boy Dave. And I think I don't even know. I had a moment times like 50. I think people were looking at me oddly, but the aroma on itself is just, it's savory and it's sweet. And I was like trying to recollect. It was like something from my youth that it reminded me of. And then I took that first sip, and different from what I was smelling, but still so incredible. I mean, it's like having peanut brittle mixed with a wee heavy, and then you're tasting like barky earthiness. And then there's like, as this is warmed up, I'm tasting like a little bit of coconut too.
Yeah.
And I've noticed in my research that it comes from that particular mushroom. And that mushroom itself, if anyone wants to look at a picture of a hen of the woods mushroom, okay, that is a ruffled extravagance of its own that grows on the tree. So I would never have thought to have that brewed in a beer or make a beer with that.
No.
But it's just completely blown me away.
Yeah.
This is...
I get a little piney, a little bit of peaty brininess in this too. Just
there's a little savory.
Yeah, it's very savory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really extraordinary. And God, as it lingers on the tongue, it's just... There's all these new flavors that keep popping up as it warms up. And to me, this is what brewing really good beer is about, is just making something totally phenomenal. And anyways, this is a 5 for me, a definite 5. So, yeah, I know. I feel like I need a minute before I start talking about my next beer. So we're going to take a brief interlude.
Not just the destination, but baby, the whole elation of riding down this lover's avenue. As slow as the willow blows, or as fast as the whirlwind grows, we glide beneath the stars in cobalt blue. Look to the left, to the right, keep your eyes on the road, my darling, wondering if we're only passing through. Open roads and open windows, my hand is yours forever, sweet love. Our eyes ahead on these back roads with a view.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are still discussing our brewery takeover of Scratch Brewing Company. And I know.
You know,
I mean, you would
people
think.
generally don't make me regret dropping in a sound. That's the last time I can play that one.
Last time.
I have a great power. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got that power of
I do
persuasion.
love
I
playing
make
this,
people
though.
regret a lot.
Wow. Okay. So we were talking about my top 3-ish picks, and
Oh, 3-ish. When she adds ish to something, we're done.
10.
yeah. Well, it's
Good
so
old boy
tough.
Dave will not be giving his top 3 today.
Moving on to the next ish.
Yeah.
Ish.
The next dish is the black cherry sour, which is absolutely stunning. I don't think I could say any more than what everyone else has said about this barrel-aged black cherry, except that it is only 5.7%. I'm really enjoying the fact that a lot of these beers are not outrageously high in ABV. And then on top of that, the fact that these are some hopless beers. that's another thing I just wanted to reiterate is that, everyone thinks that you got to have hops in every beer of every, even English style beers, got to have some degree of hoppiness in it. But I'm cool with not having hops. This is such a refreshing tasting today because you're not having to, think about what hop aroma, what hop profile you got going on. But yeah, these are so satisfying on their own that they don't need to have hops.
Yeah, well,
to be even more satisfying. You know what I mean?
Caperton, just changing the quick subject, he brought me back when you guys went the wet hop IPA. This isn't to say that they don't like or use hops because they grow them as well.
Yeah, they have hop
hops,
vines out there. Yeah.
And that beer was crazy too.
Yeah, it was crazy, but in a completely different way because for them not using hops in all of their beers, that one was done so special that, we've all had wet hop beers before.
Yeah,
we know what they're like. Yeah. And this didn't taste anything like that.
Well, I think it's part of using hops in the context of it's an ingredient
it's
that
another
can, it's just one of many things that you can use.
Sure.
Plants that you can use to enhance or build a flavor profile in a beer. It's not the only one.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And it made that beer so unique and so special that for people that love wet hopped IPAs, you haven't really had one until you've tried this one. It's extraordinary. Anyways, that's what I'm not here to talk about.
That's the ish.
There's the ish.
That's one of the ish. That's
She
one of the
slipped it in.
issues. Yeah, well, you got to do that.
Very
So
ishy.
my barrel aged black cherry sour, I rated that a 5. Then the other one in my top 3-ish is the Spring Tonic, and that's another one. Guys, I'm a girl. I'm allowed to change my mind or add. So the Spring Tonic to me was everything that Tim said and more. This really isn't a beer to me. This is almost like a cocktail. It's so explosive.
Like a tonic.
Yeah. Well, there it is.
Yeah.
It's a tonic.
Yeah.
Cures what ails you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so explosive in flavor and so many flavors, and it all blends so well. And that ginger has got to be the most delicate ginger ending I've ever had in a beer.
Yeah.
If that makes any
It can
sense.
really be punchy,
Right. Harsh.
Ginger ending.
Sure, but even the aroma on it
Death to all
is
redheads.
not overwhelmingly ginger. And that crispness that you get, which you normally get with ginger, just kind of helps this like lemonade-y gingerness kind of explode in your tongue.
Ginger
Lemony
lemonade.
Snickets.
Yeah, it's just, and again, it's so different because it's so unlike anything else. But yeah, they've done really well with this. This one's a 5. And I'm just going to say one more quick thing before good old boy Dave takes it. Okay, the Chanterelle, as that puppy has warmed up, that Biere de Gardeness has just blossomed into the most beautiful thing ever.
Yes.
Okay. It didn't make my top 3-ish, but okay.
Well, it did.
If I
You
could,
might reconsider.
It did actually.
Apparently,
Sounds like it did.
It is the ish in your top 3.
yeah, and that's an extraordinary beer. Yeah, extraordinary.
What
And
did you rate that one?
a 5.
Good Lord. All right.
Okay, I'm done.
You
I'm
know
done.
there are other numbers, right?
No, not today.
Okay. Well, you guys have all covered my top 3, but I'll just go through them pretty quickly. So my favorite beer of the flight was the Spring Tonic, and like Julianna said, and I think she stole this from me, is it was more like a cocktail than a beer. To me, there was so much herbaceousness, and the ginger and the lemon work so well together to really just punch up the flavor and make it so springtime. I mean, it is like springtime in a bottle. And I just really enjoyed that beer a lot. So I gave it a 5.
Springtime in a bottle.
That's right. I think that's supposed to be a cleaner.
You know,
or something.
we've used the word gruit, and I think that applies especially well to the Hickory single in that it's a restorative. You know, I mean, gruits were, you know, medicinal, at least in their original intent. And I kind of find that with this. It just seems to be a really good
I think you could say that about several of the beers in this flight, that they're they definitely fall in line with the definition of a gruit. But also, like you say, they have the medicinal qualities of adding in herbs that people would, you know, maybe not have another way to really ingest effectively. So I think this would be another reason that when the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm going to Southern Illinois.
It hasn't?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Not yet. Not
It
quite.
seems that way.
We don't have the lamestream media on.
Yeah.
There,
So
it could have all ended. In the
it might be.
meantime.
Yes, it might be over.
That's true.
What's that outside? No. Second beer was the Hen of the Woods Wheat Heavy. Straight up peanut brittle for me with just a little bit of savory, like, you know, I don't totally get chicken. Like, you know, they say Hen of the Woods tastes like chicken, but smells like fish. No, just kidding. But this beer has this nutty, toffee kind of just, you know, almost roasty quality to it that you all right?
Yeah,
Julie's
okay.
coming
Okay.
apart over there. Yeah.
Okay, somebody else needs a swing arm mic. So, but no, this beer was definitely, it was a game changer. And I kept saying that when we were at Scratch trying it. And when we had it fresh on tap, it was actually even better than it is in the growler.
I think everyone's first beer at Scratch is like a game changer.
You're just like,
you know,
dude,
it's like
Yeah.
whatever your first beer is with these guys.
what is
you're
this?
just
And
like,
you know,
okay, I got to recalibrate.
And I've had Scratch beers before, but none of them, and they were all like, "Holy crap!
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, you're dropping whole trees into a work, you know, and
Oh, you
making
guys had them at GABF.
yeah,
didn't you?
and it was you know the maple
and
the-
Shelton. Yeah.
So, but it's like every time you think they've, you know, you've figured them out. They're like, no, we went a little deeper into the woods. And
We're
found
still
this-
foraging.
We found
We're
this
not
other
done.
stuff,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, we're not done.
And that's the exciting part about it is when you look at their website and you see all of the beers they've already done, and you think about all the beers that they're going to do and how big the woods are, you know,
How
and
many
the fact
creatures
that-
there are.
Yeah.
you know,
You haven't even gotten to
Yeah,
the Black Knight.
sure. You know, when the chipmunk beer comes out and the groundhog, and you know, once they start sticking real animals in beers, that's when, you know, it's going to get real.
Yeah.
But they're utilizing their surroundings in a way that most people just don't, you know, and it's in such a skilled and methodical way that it really makes it even that much more impressive. But the Hen of the Woods, I gave it a 5. So the first beer that that I have that it was in my top 3 that none of you talked about was the Mum, which that was a sour.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about it.
Mum's the word.
That's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I feel like if I said that, I would have gotten the buzzer. But good old boy Reverend Mark says
He gets
it.
the
and
bell.
He gets the
bell.
compliment. Okay,
Yeah, he gets the
good.
crowd
Well,
applauding.
Because he's good old boy Reverend Mark.
That's fair. I'm Timmy.
This beer to me though was just it had such an interesting depth to the flavor. It was like you know, sour up front, but then there's a sweetness that finished, and I could taste, you know, parts of the barrel and just all the different things they were putting in there. So I really just it's almost going to make me sneeze. I'm so emotional about it.
I thought you were going to cry there.
Well, crying, sneezing, stuff comes out of you either way.
Guys,
you
but
know.
it's just a sneeze.
You're squirting liquid out one way or the other.
okay.
Always
Okay.
fun.
But this Mum,
We
I
went there.
think was a really, really solid beer, and I gave it a 4.
Yeah, that's the one I like. Reverend Mark was saying, you know, medicinal. I got those sorts of qualities from that one in not an
a
off
bad
flavor
way.
way
Right,
at all.
right.
No, but in it reminds you like an herbal tincture.
There is a like, yeah, it's like sour and then kind of sweet, and there's this kind of herbal finish.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I couldn't really pick any herbs out, right? I mean, I couldn't like, it didn't taste like licorice.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's
some
just
lemon maybe, and, you know, just a couple of different things. But
and a little oak.
The way they blended them was just really, really good.
And I think it's deceptively low in alcohol. I mean, you know, it's like less than 5%. So
yeah, like 4.7 or something. So there were a couple of beers that we didn't talk about already. We tasted 8 today. We've talked about 6. I took off my shoes to make sure I counted right. And one of them was the Hickory Stout, the barrel-aged stout.
I wanted to include that.
Yeah. What did you think about it?
Well, it was, again, one of those just kind of a jaw dropper, you know, the wood, the sort of that tannic. And it's, you know, I guess I should say when I say wood, it's not like the barrel, right?
No.
It's not
No,
like the
not at
barrel
all.
at
Very
all.
different. Yeah.
No, it's the hickory wood.
And it's like what you would imagine, sort of like that kind of pulpy, soft stuff, you know, underneath the bark, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever taken a bite out of a tree, so I can't really say.
And you don't need to.
Such a but
tree
that
biter, right?
But yeah, and again, much like the other barrel aged beer that we had, which was the black cherry, I think I'm interested to see how that beer does with a little time on it on the shelf.
Yeah.
You know, I think it'll age really well.
this one to me was more viscous than the other and more creamy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I kind of like the
yeah.
mouthfeel on this one a lot.
It actually felt great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And it got a lot sweeter too as it warmed up.
Yeah,
which I thought was really interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's almost like there's like a hickory syrup. I mean, I know it's not syrupy, but it reminds me of, you know, hickory smoked foods, but in a maple syrupy kind of way, if that makes any sense. I just, it just...
Like some hickory smoked bacon that gets a little syrup from the pancakes on it.
Yeah.
The best bite there.
I think one of the things about this beer that maybe why it didn't make it into anybody's top 3, and all the beers are outstanding, but, you know, and some of the naming conventions, like when you talk about a style, I mean, this one was dark like a stout, but I don't know. There are certain components of a stout the way you normally think about it.
It wasn't super roasty,
right?
So it was roasty. There was a little there.
There was a little bit, but then like it had
a little sweetness.
It
like
wasn't.
You would expect,
it wasn't sweet like a milk stout though. Yeah, so then and it wasn't really dry like a dry stout, and it wasn't the mouthfeel was really great, but it wasn't creamy like an oatmeal stout. So when you think about all these different types of stouts, it didn't really match up to any one of those kinds. So when you have it in your mind, that it is like it's what it's supposed to be, it doesn't really match up to that. But when you think about the beer by itself, then it's still a good beer.
The Basil IPA was like that.
Well, yeah. So I was going to say, I think for this one, most of us probably gave this one a 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I had anything rated below a 3.
Yeah.
I gave it that one a 4.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I gave the Hickory. I gave a 4.
Oh, well, let me hold on. Let me pull
let's
back.
burp a little longer.
Let me pull that 3 back, and we'll add 1 to it.
Yeah.
So that leads us into the Basil IPA, though.
Mm-hmm. The Basil IPA is another 4.7%, and this one uses lemon basil, sweet basil, and holy basil. From their gardens. Yes, as well as some honey from Royal Bee in Steelville, Illinois.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't realize the honeyness in it until after it warmed up. But anyway, some quick thoughts.
Just think that there's no hops that we can detect in it, and I think that kind of put everybody off a little bit, that you get the great flavor from the basil, but there's no real hoppiness.
I think they should have called it a Basil Saison.
Yeah.
I think we would have all loved
Belgian
it.
basil.
Table beer or something.
I mean, not even a basil pale, because I'm expecting more than what it delivered. But
it's in a brown bottle.
Yeah.
Basil, huh?
But I'm not sure there's hops in this.
But I think we probably gave all gave this one a 3 because it is a good beer.
Yeah.
It is a great beer.
It is.
Can I have another?
Well, any last thoughts about Scratch besides
Try the pizza.
when are we?
The food. Yeah,
God.
another episode could be the food.
Go for the beer, stay for the food.
Do they deliver?
That'd be a heck of a charge.
Yeah. Gosh, that would. But pizza's definitely where it's at. Well, great stuff, everyone. And that's going to wrap it up for today's Suds episode. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and you can catch all of our episodes online as well as on SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, PureX, and Spreaker, our native media host. iTunes, Google Play, and our own Android app are the easiest ways to enjoy the show on your phone. Just search for Suds Smokes on iTunes or in the Google Play Store.
We love your feedback, especially when it's positive, and you can reach us online at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com.
Our daily tasting notes continue to flow out on Twitter and Instagram every day, every single day, at Sip Suds Smoke, and our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news.
And so, if you will, please, please, please take time to rate this episode if you're listening online.
5 stars.
Yes, 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars. I want to thank all of our hosts for joining us today. Good old boy Dave.
If I didn't have puke breath, I'd kiss you.
Ever the romantic. Good old boy Caperton.
It's been fun. See you guys next time.
Good old boy Reverend Mark.
Always good to be here.
And good old boy Tim.
Hey, everybody, keep on scratching.
This is good old gal Julianna. Keep on chuggling, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a one-tan-hand production of Sip, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.